Hi everybody, welcome back to Indycar. I'm sorry about the earlier problems with transmission. I had a big problem with Facebook this morning. My Facebook account just kept closing down, it wouldn't let me onto Facebook at all. And this coincides strangely with the new data protection laws which have just come into force today. But I've now managed to completely clear out my entire phone's operating system and started over with a new version, and so hopefully you should be hearing and seeing me perfectly today on what is an important day for the SNP. Firstly, let me say today is the day on which we find out the results of the Growth Commission's deliberations. What does independence actually mean for Scotland? What opportunities does it present us with to grow our economy? One of the first things to be announced, in fact, was that there will be a Scottish currency, but the proviso is that we will continue to use the pound sterling for around about 10 years, up until the point where our own currency and our own central bank and everything is set up and running smoothly. And before the British nationalists can get on the phone and say, well, you can't use the British pound, we know that we can use the British pound, and everybody knows that you can use British pounds. We just won't be in a currency union, because we were told we weren't allowed a currency union last time, so this time we're not having one. We're just going to use the British currency for all our trade and all our dealings with other people for about 10 years, until the Scottish pound is ready. So that's a very important first step. That lays out the groundwork for the future offer for the independence that we're going to be voting on. Now, whether it's a referendum, whether it's some other type of vote, or whether it's a general election, I don't know. But we will be voting about it. And the first thing that we can tell people on the doorsteps now is that there will be a Scottish currency in about 10 years' time. It will be the Scottish pound. And until that time, we'll just continue using British pounds as you normally do. And nobody can stop you from doing that. And nobody in England or Wales or any other place can deny you the use of a tradable, transferable currency. It's used all across the world by lots of different countries for lots of different reasons. So that was the first good thing. Now, there are a lot of other things to come out of this Growth Commission, including the headline numbers yesterday of over £4,000 a week generated wealth from independence for every single household in Scotland. This is the estimate by the experts and by the the economists and the mathematicians and the statisticians. They look at the actual figures on what is possible. It means attracting more people to come and live in Scotland, more people to work here, more people to open businesses here, and more people to create jobs here. And that's the thing that was always keeping Scotland down, was the fact that it was a backwater, and we were deliberately kept as a backwater, so all the jobs would migrate south and Scotland would remain weak. Independence changes all of that. Scotland stops being weak and becomes an attractive place for people to work and invest. More information will come out from the Growth Commission's report over the next few days, and there will be headline after headline. And I do know that over the weekend there are going to be several big announcements from the Growth Commission about what independence will mean for everyday people in their everyday lives, what it will mean for their pensions, what it will mean for their investments, what it will mean for their savings, and what it will mean for their jobs, particularly if they work in industries with the name British at the front, and other employers who are multinationals. It will make a difference to everybody. There are going to be announcements for the next few days which are going to be real eye-openers for people who are sitting on the fence about independence at the moment. Okay, what else has been happening this week? Well, oddly, just as the news of the Growth Commission's report coming out was making it into the newspapers and onto the headlines on the television, there was a story circulated yesterday about a lady who worked for the, I think it was, I'm trying to remember the name of it, was the Fisheries Commission, and her job was basically overseeing the numbers of fish coming ashore and being sold. She apparently was sellotaped to an office chair 8 years ago in what is supposed to have been the result of her whistleblowing after she was allegedly bullied by her fellow workmates. Now, I'm not disputing the fact that the event took place and that this woman was sellotaped to a chair. The question was, why was she sellotaped to a chair? Was it because that she blew the whistle, or was this a prank? And the biggest question of all is, why is an 8-year-old news story, which nobody has thought to publish at all for 8 years, suddenly all over the newspapers and all over the internet on the day that the SNP make a big announcement? Well, it's not a coincidence, is it? The British news media has been holding back a whole series of SNP bad stories that they want to try and put out just as the SNP is about to announce something good. It's a battle of wits, this. But interestingly, this story isn't actually directly related to the SNP. The Fisheries Commission was a British institution set up to monitor fisheries across the UK. As far as I remember, until devolution, we had nothing at all to do with it. It is run, of course, by people like fishermen. It might well be that the people who were bullying this poor woman were in fact conservative voting fishermen. I don't know. But the point is, it's an 8-year-old story. The woman is supposed to have gone to a tribunal to take her tormentors to task and to bring the alleged bullying to light. And according to the story, what I've managed to read of it, she still works for the Fisheries Commission. In fact, not only that, but she's been promoted. So this is a bit of a non-story. She sellotaped to a chair 8 years ago after she allegedly claimed she was being bullied, and this was alleged to have been some kind of retribution for grassing up her workmates who were being nasty to her. But she must have won, because not only is she still working for the same employer, which must be a good employer, otherwise she wouldn't have stayed there, but not only that, but she's been promoted. It's a non-story. The SNP doesn't have any control over the Fisheries Commission. It has oversight of it. But this is an event from 8 years ago, 2010. And all of a sudden the British media brings this to light as though it's some kind of new news story. Well, I'm sorry, British media, but that's got to be the worst bit of fake news I've ever seen. It's a non-story. It's something that happened in the past. It's been resolved in the past successfully. And the woman who made the complaint has successfully won her tribunal and got her job back, and not only that, but got a promotion out of it. So I think whoever was bullying her has been dealt with, and it's nothing to do with the SNP or the Growth Commission. So there you go, another bit of rubbish from the BBC that we just want to jump all over right now. But it's a good day to be a Scottish nationalist or a Scottish patriot of any kind at the moment, because we're now beginning to see what the new battle for independence is going to be about. And as I said the other day, we are standing on the solid ground this time. We have the high ground, a high moral ground. We have not made promises that haven't been kept. We have not let the shipyard workers down. We've not let the pensioners down, particularly women pensioners who've now had their pensions snatched away from them, losing tens of thousands of pounds in pension payments because the government, the British government, has raised the pension age for women without any warning. Pensioners are suffering because of that. Women who should have been retiring and should have been looking forward to taking it a bit easier, having to work another 5 years for what? They were all ready to retire. They've probably made arrangements for all of that. They've been let down. And the Scottish Government is not responsible for that. The Scottish Government is also not responsible for the mess of the NHS in England. Despite Jeremy Hunt saying that they're going to need to raise taxation for everybody in the UK to solve the problem of the NHS, what they haven't said is it's to solve the problem of the English NHS. The Scottish NHS is perfectly well funded, and that's because of good Scottish governance, prudence by the Scottish Government about where they spend the money. The Scottish NHS is not perfect. It doesn't run perfectly all the time. There are delays and there are problems, but by and large it's not dying on its feet like the one south of the border. So there's a lot of good news for us coming up in the next few days. Watch out in the news for further big revelations from the Growth Commission about what independence will mean for you and your family. £4,000 a year better off on average, a new Scottish pound on the way, using the British pound to bide our time for the next few years while that gets up and running. We already have our welfare department set up. We can now issue benefits, we can now issue pensions. We have an investment bank being set up so we can attract inward investment. All that remains for us to do in order to set up the country for independence is for us to have a central bank and have somewhere to store our reserve of foreign currency. It's been estimated that Scotland actually needs somewhere between 18 and 20 billion pounds worth of foreign currency reserves. That's holding on to cash from other countries in a central bank. And this is what gives stability to your own currency. There were stories that it would take £300 million for Scotland to set up its own central bank. This is absolute baloney. The guy who actually made this claim is a guy called Ronald MacDonald, believe it or not. I find it hard to believe that there is a Professor Ronald MacDonald who could make an estimation for the foreign reserve currency levels for a tiny country like Scotland, £300 billion. That's probably about 10 times what it would actually need. If it was Britain setting up a currency reserve, pardon me, it would need 300 billion. Scotland, maximum £30 billion worth of foreign currency. That's a drop in the bucket. Remember that the amount of money that Scotland earns in a year is far in excess of 30 billion. And not only that, but we're still running in the black. Scotland's economy is turning a profit still. But a lot of the money that's being made by Scottish employers is migrating, about 6% of it is migrating out of Scotland into the pockets of investors and shareholders in other places. That's not necessarily abnormal, but it would be good to try and reduce that and increase the number of Scottish indigenous firms that are owned by shareholders here, so more of the profits end up here. Anyway, that's enough waffle for one day, but I'm back. Facebook is not going to keep me off the airwaves by mucking about with my Facebook application. It's easy for me to wipe the phone and restart with a new operating system. So whoever it was that managed to plant this little virus into my phone, well, you failed. Sorry, folks. We're a lot smarter than you think over at the Independence Movement, and we're back on the air within an hour. So, Indycar is going to have a little bit of a break. I will see you again probably next week. Saturday I will be busy, so there won't be a show over the weekend. Might be something on Sunday, but as I say, watch the news, particularly get the national newspaper and read their stories online this weekend. There are several big announcements coming up that are important for us when we're campaigning and talking to people online, talking to people on the street that they need to know. But the good news is, independence is coming, our currency is coming, we have a plan for the currency, there is a plan to stabilise the Scottish economy, and there is growth coming because it is being planned for. The Scottish Government is taking this very, very seriously, and we're not being asked to make a leap of faith this time. When we vote for independence, there are going to be solid bricks and mortar buildings there to do the work. There will be the staff to carry it out, and there will be a plan in place which will take us through the transition period. Over a 10-year period, over a decade, Scotland will become fully independent. And not only will it be fully independent, it will have a strong currency, stronger than the pound, because the pound, I think, is going to weaken because of Brexit. And it might well be that although we'll use the pound for a while as we become independent, we might actually end up dropping it before the 10 years is up if it becomes too devalued, and maybe go with some basket of currencies as a way of giving our own pound its value. So we'll peg it to a basket of world currencies to stabilise things. There are always options for these, remember. It's not that we have to stick with the British pound for 10 years. It could be for 1 or 2 years, and then we just kick it into touch and go with our own, which is probably going to be worth more. Okay, I'm off. Have a good weekend, everybody. The weather is set fair, so get out there and enjoy the sun. It's tap-shaft weather. Let's get out and enjoy it. Be happy. Independence is coming, and it's going to be good. All right, everything is clicking into place at just the right time. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.